In 1995, a violent crime would forever change the lives of two families and lead to an unbelievable outcome initiated by the victim's father, Azim Khamisha.
I worked as an international investment banker, so I traveled the world and had a very full life. My son grew up in Seattle with his mom, and then after he finished high school, he came to San Diego to study. He was a student in San Diego State University, which was nice because he was closer to me. He wanted to become a journalist.
But on January 21st, 1995, the father and son's peaceful lives would be irreparably torn apart. While Azim was returning from a business trip in Mexico, Tariq was working a part-time job delivering pizzas.
It was the last delivery of the evening, and he was lured to a bogus address in North Park. And as he was about to leave, he was accosted by 4 youth gang members. And the 14-year-old fired one round, which entered my son's body under the left shoulder blade. And Tariq died a couple of minutes later, slumped in the front seat of the car, drowning in his own blood over a lousy pizza at the age of 28. Needless to say, it brought my life to a crashing halt. It was like a nuclear bomb that had gone off in my heart. And I went through all the emotions you would anticipate a parent to go through. Unbearable grief, despair. I was suicidal at one point. I really did not know how to go on with my life. But I recognized that if I did not forgive, I would remain a victim. And there's no quality of life being a victim.
Ples Felix, whose grandson, 14-year-old Tony Hicks, was arrested for the murder, was also facing the terrible news.
That feeling of foreboding came on me. First thing I did was to call my daughter.
While his mother's eyes filled with tears.
And then she asked me, she said, "Do you believe Tony killed somebody?" I said, "I don't want to believe it." I guess I wanted to not accept that as reality. I knew that life would change forever.
On January 21st, 1995, I shot and killed Tariq Khamisha. I'm sorry for killing Tariq and hurting his family. I'm sorry for the pain that I caused for Tariq's father, Mr. Khamisha. I pray to God every day that Mr. Khamisha will forgive me for what I've done. My grandfather promised me that he would be Mr. Khamisha's friend and help him in any way he can for the rest of his life. I'm very sorry for what I've done. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak.
For the first time in California, a 14-year-old was prosecuted as an adult. The other 3 gang members were apprehended and received prison sentences. Tony confessed to the murder, waiving his right to a trial, and received a sentence of 25 years to life in prison.
Who is the enemy here? Is it the 14-year-old that killed my son? Or is it the societal forces that forced a young African-American boy to join a gang at the age of 11, and then to prove himself to the gang, he shot and killed my son?
With forgiveness in his heart, Azim decided to pick up the pieces and take a remarkable step. 9 months after Tariq's death, Azim started an organization to work against youth violence in at-risk communities called the Tariq Khamisha Foundation.
I want to thank you for inviting Tariq Khamisha Foundation to bring our Violence Impact Forum, and especially today, because today is exactly the 16th anniversary of this tragedy.
With him on stage is Ples Felix, whom Azim reached out to shortly after the murder and asked to join him in his anti-violence work.
We needed to share the story of how Tariq and Tony's paths crossed and how it resulted in the death of one person and the life of another person changing instantly and forever.
And I said to him, I cannot do anything to bring my son back from the dead. He's gone. And you can't do anything to get your grandson out of prison. And I've started this foundation with the mission of stopping kids from killing kids. can't do this by myself. The real reason I'm here is ask for your help.
Azim and Pless forged a close bond of friendship. They regularly visit schools and speak to kids about the tragedy that brought them together and the lessons they've learned.
His grandson killed my son, and we are brothers. I have made relationships like Pless because of forgiveness.
Tony was like you all, but Tony also was a very angry person. One thing about angry people are not thinking people.
The real reason we are here is for you, because we don't want you to die like Tariq, or we don't want you to end up in prison like Tony. That's why we're here, because every one of you in this room is a very important person. But how many of you here have lost a family member as a result of violence? And put your hand up. Yeah. So you know about this pain. What would you do? How many of you here would want revenge if your brother or your sister was killed? Yeah? I get it. We've reached over 8 million kids. And through our story, we are teaching the principles of nonviolence, of compassion, of empathy, of forgiveness, of peacemaking. Because violence is a learned behavior. No kid was born violent. If you accept that as a truism, then nonviolence can also be a learned behavior. But you have to teach it. These kids are not going to learn that by osmosis.
In the 15 years of Azim's work with the Foundation, he has traveled the world and earned recognition from presidents and global luminaries like the Dalai Lama, but his focus has never wavered.
So I teach this work today, that forgiveness is something you do for yourself. It is healthy to forgive. Now, the magic about it is that through forgiveness, I've been able to heal.